Hello everyone, welcome to Moe's Tool Talk. And I have to talk about this album again because I want to express just how meaningful and important this one album is. My favorite album of all time ever since I first heard it in 2001. I had moved to Montreal for the first time in my life. It was the first year I've been there in Montreal, and let's just get right into it. It's of course Lateralus by Tool. Now, when I say I'm obsessed with this album, I mean I am obsessed with this album. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be, but I'll do my best to keep it short. I could still gab about this album forever. Now, I had been waiting for a new Tool album since '96, since Anima came out, and Anima was like still superb. Every album that they made after Opiate, and I've been a fan ever since Opiate was the only album they had. Then the next year they released Undertow, which blew my mind, and then Anima, which was just, it went in that progressive angle, and I loved where they were going. But this album, this album changed my perceptions, changed my life, because when I first moved to Montreal, I was getting into my spirituality, like especially being in Montreal, seeing the sights, seeing the people I was meeting. The whole energy of Montreal was not the same as being here in Moncton. For some reason, Moncton has a weird, low, dense energy of negativity in it. Some people might not see it, but I feel it, and I see it. And I'll kind of allude to this maybe at the end of the video a little bit. But being in Montreal, and I'll start from the kind of at the beginning of where it kind of led into when this album came out. Very early on, I had explored the city, and I have found a really cool kind of I don't know what kind of shop you would call it, but it was a bookshop, but it was more like on the spiritual end of the spectrum. All the books that they had was more, and I should try to figure out what the name of that shop was, because it was special. When you walked into the shop, it was down in the basement. There was a couple of steps to get down in there, and I felt energy. I found certain books at the time, which I'm not going to go into, but I had been, before this album came out, I had already been a Alex Grey fan, and if you're interested, you can see the card set I had bought later on. After this had come out, I'll leave a link of it right here. It's the Sacred Mirrors card set, and I go through those cards celebrating Alex Grey, because Alex Grey, and I know it might sound like I'm saying Alice Grey, but I'm not. I'm saying Alex Grey with it, But I had been a big fan of Alex Grey, and okay, I'll get to that in a minute. So I'm in this bookstore, and I'm looking through and I don't have the card anymore, but it was like a cool card that you could open up. It was lengthwise, and it had an Alex Grey picture of a guy sitting in a lotus position, with his arm, his hands in kind of in that position on his knees, and it had a cool lattice, like an energy thing around it, going out in lines and stuff, and it showed all the chakras, and I was just beginning to learn all about the chakras, all about the inner being of who we really are. And I was learning about the true multi-dimensional nature of our being, of who we really are inside. And I had not been more spiritual than the time that I lived up in Montreal. And it affected me in such a positive, beautiful way. So I had bought this cool Alex Gray card with the chakras and everything, and I had bought a book. I'm not going to say who it is because many people might consider it controversial, and not necessarily that I believed in what he was saying in this particular book, but parts of the book was talking about the multidimensional quality of us humans and how we need to spiral out from, instead of being in what he called the eggshell. Well, okay, I'm just going to mention who it is. It was David Icke. And if you know anything about David Icke, he's one of those kind of weird conspiracy theories that he believes that the people controlling the earth are reptilian in nature, and they can shape shift into reptilians, and you can find that stuff on the internet. Now, I kept an open mind. I didn't necessarily believe in anything that he was saying in his books. And the first book I had read was called I Am Me, I Am Free. Oh, no, sorry. Actually, that was a previous book of that. No, the book I bought was called And the Truth Shall Set You Free. I eventually bought The Biggest Secret book, where he started first talking about the reptilian thing. Well, that's beyond the point. I don't believe in that necessarily. I am still kind of open to the possibility that maybe he might be right, because a lot of the things he was saying, I kind of felt that he was kind of on point with, even if you don't believe the whole reptilian thing. He was saying that we as human beings, being multidimensional beings, that most people with their negative, low, dense, feelings of their vibrational frequency puts them in an eggshell position, like where this is all their reality they know is, because they spiral in on themselves. Everything around them is spiraling in, and it's all self-centered and greedy, and it's all me, spiraling in. But what David Icke was saying is that we need to spiral out into the cosmos. That's when we connect with everything that is, and that's when we really become happy as human beings. When we're able to open our minds to other possibilities, instead of all this beliefs. And if anybody knows about the liner notes to Anima, there is a quote where they're talking about Timothy Leary and his LSD stuff and everything, and at one of the lines at the bottom says, "Believe in nothing." And I completely understood that concept of believing in nothing. And what I was getting from David Icke was that open your mind to other possibilities and believe in nothing. Because when you have a belief of any shape, any shape or form, it excludes other possibilities. And this world is so much bigger and so much more special than we give it credit for. Most people are just out for themselves, all spiraling in on themselves. So I was learning about that at the time, and I had that postcard, I had those books that was kind of leading in that way. Now, how I first discovered that the new album was coming out, and I've told this story already, but it really bears repeating because it's important to my love of this album and my obsession with this album. I was walking down St. Catherine Street, heading west in Montreal. I might have been at the we had just passed Barrie Metro, and we were heading where the Fufun Electric, place where they had these cool bands. And as we're walking down the street, and I swear, like it's the most amazing thing. In the far distance on a pole, it might have been like, to my perspective, a tiny like a tiny little dot, no bigger than maybe yeah, it was just such a small, tiny dot. I was in mid conversation with a friend of mine, John McIntyre, who was walking down the street with, and and didn't I see didn't I see that image? But it was it was just the image of him. All that background wasn't there. It had some writing on the top, and it was just the image of him. It didn't even have the those flaming eyeballs, and it didn't have that spiral thing coming up from the top. It was just that. But for some reason, I knew instantly the second I saw it. It was the new Tool album. I don't know how I knew. It was sending that vibrational frequency at me that I knew. It was almost as if it was like, people believe that that our existence here on this, in this realm, in this plane, is a simulation, and that we're in a simulation. Well, whatever that programming was trying to tell me, it was telling me that little pinprint, that little pin thing, that tiny little poster way in the distance was a new Tool album. And as I'm getting closer and getting closer, walking down the street, I was not talking anymore. I was just focused 100% on that little, and my hopes and everything was confirmed. I was right. It was a new Tool album that I couldn't believe it. It said Tool in that lettering, and it said Lateralus, and it showed the date it was coming out, May 15th. I'll never forget that date ever. Yeah, I knew instantly that it was that. How did I know? How did that little tiny thing catch my eye? I cannot explain it. I cannot explain it to this day. But it was so amazing. It was just like, it was the coolest thing ever. And I had to save my money for it, because I wasn't really making much money at the time. I had a job. Yeah. Yeah, no, I had a job, and I wanted to make sure that on my next check that I would make sure I had the money for it. And then when that album came out, I was right there. I didn't want to hear it until I was able to get home and put the headphones on. Well, I didn't have headphones. I actually put the speakers next to I had a cool ghetto blaster that I could detach the speakers, and I had them on the side of my head. I made sure the lights were off. I closed my eyes, and when the first time I played this, well, before I get to that, I want to tell you when I first seen this cover. And when I opened it up the first time, slipped it out of this cool sleeve, and then seeing the mechanical, let me see if I can't bring that out a little bit better with this white card. And that's what I kind of put in there to show you the front cover on the thumbnail. Now take a look at that. The intricate, it's like a wiring system of all electronic and how everything is together. And you can see that tracks 10, 11, and 12, being disposition, reflection, and triad, how they just kind of blend. And now you can't see the title triad because I still have that little sticker on there. But I should take that off. I don't need that sticker on there anymore. I'm going to be taking that off soon. But yeah, and how it, like when you see the band members right here, and that's the first time I seen the name Justin Chancellor. I had not noticed it before, that it was a new bass player. That's when I first learned that there was a new bass player. And yeah, you can see on the bottom here how these are all connected by these three lines, that saying that is a trilogy. And then Parabole and Parabola, I thought maybe they were going to be two different songs. And yeah, the packaging kind of really tripped me out. I thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. It's probably still my favorite packaging, my favorite album art of all time still. As much as I love Iron Maiden artwork, which is still some of my favorite, this blew me away. And then when I opened it up and I saw that, I had no idea until I took it out and started like, are you kidding me? That is like, that blew me away. Seeing the cross section of the human anatomy, and then when I looked at the back packaging and saw that it was artwork by Alex Gray, it blew my mind. It blew my mind. I was like, what? My favorite artist of all time and my favorite band of all time has joined together to create such a beautiful packaging. Yeah, yeah. I was convinced. I was convinced that the universe conspired together with Maynard and Tool to make me the most perfect album on the planet. And that is before. This is before I even listened to it. I was like, okay, there is something mystical, something supernatural about this album that is affecting me, that is calling me in so many ways. And then when I first heard the album for the first time, like the subject matter, the subjects of this, starting with The Grudge, being a song about forgiveness and why forgiving was important. You don't it's so you don't be weighed down with these leaden grudges. You got to turn those leaden grudges into gold. And where when he starts saying, let go, let go, let go, let go, let go, let go, like 30 something times, in getting more and more and more tense. I felt that it chills. Had full body goosebumps, chills, and my heart just swelled to 3 times its own size. It was just filling me up with the most joy and beauty I've ever experienced in my life. I don't think any experience will ever come close to this, to the first time. And then after that first song, we have a little introduction of Eon Blue Apocalypse, that beautiful echoey, just Adam Jones and his beautiful guitar tone. And the guitar tones in this album is just beautiful, impeccable. And then how it just bleeds right into one of the most, I say, is one of the most beautiful songs, being The Patient. And at first I thought maybe they were talking about a patient being in the hospital, that type of patient. But no, they're talking about being patient. And when you understand that it's kind of related to Maynard and how he felt about his mother being in the hospital for so many years, dealing with the condition that she was dealing with, it is so beautiful. And then after The Patient, the next song, the intro to the next song basically is Mantra. Mantra being your that calming. And it took years later to figure out what that sound really was. Where it's Maynard's cat. He wasn't torturing the cat. He wasn't physically hurting the cat, but he was taking the cat's kind of scream and slowing it down and having it repeat in a certain way. Yeah, but still, the idea of a mantra bleeding into Schism, which is a song about communicating and why it's so important for us to communicate, being in contact with each other, not distancing ourselves. That cold apathy, as he states in here. It's important that we express ourselves and communicate what our desires and our needs and our feelings in a way not going to alienate other people and distance ourselves to. And then from Schism going into, again, still probably my equally the most beautiful song, Parabola and Parabola, which is about being at one with you and your body, like of being a whole person rather than being a half of a person. And I think the reason why it's separated as two different songs is the juxtaposition between mind and body, of saying that the first part being very lower in tone and very melodic and beautiful as it, and saying that, this body holding me, reminding me that I am not alone in this body, makes me feel eternal. All this pain is an illusion. Like, again, full body goosebumps. And how Parabola ends with those beautiful sounds. I had never heard sounds like that ever in any type of music. It was so creative and so mystical and so it's so like mind blowing. Every part of the song was mind blowing. And then, as I said before in my other Tool talk, how when it gets to Ticks and Leeches, it's the heaviest, most nastiest song on the album, where it's talking about those who want to suck your energy, who wants to tear you down. Well, if you're going to do that, I hope you choke on it. I hope you choke, because it's stupid that you're a tick, you're a leech, and you shouldn't, you should change your ways and not choking on my energy. Find your own energy. Find it from the cosmos instead of taking it from me or from other people who are in a higher frequency. That is low energy, negative people trying to suck the energy out of another person rather than getting it from a higher source. Many people want to call it God, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to call it God, absolutely fine. I can completely respect that, but I call it the cosmic energy, the vibrational frequency that we're getting from the center of our galaxy, which is a giant magnetic disc that holds all the information that we are able to pick up on if we're tuned to that station. Instead of throwing this net around, this negative net around the planet, keeping us from that higher frequency. That's what wars do. That's what hatred does. It puts this big ugly net over our planet that prevents us from reaching a higher purpose. And we need to tear down that net and connect with that higher sense of being, our multi-dimensional self. And in that song of Ticks and Leeches, being dead center of the album in many ways, has also the quietest moments in the whole album, where you hear an echo of the Grudge in the middle of that saw blade of how the Grudge starts with the before it's dun 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 dun. It's still, again, mind blowing every time I think of this album, and I will always say over and over again how mind blowing it was. But then to lead out of Ticks and Leeches and start the slow, beautiful, like rising. It's like that when the way Lateralus starts, it's like the visual, it's like how it's the audio equivalency of being on a mushroom trip and seeing the images float but also being at peace with yourself. This song mainly And think, when I heard the term Lateralus, instantly I knew what it meant. It meant lateral thinking, thinking left of center, of not being so rigid in what you perceive, but being open-minded to other possibilities. That is the theme of this entire album, is opening yourself up from this dense negative energy that you have, and spiral out, connect with the universe instead of being stuck in your eggshell, being stuck in that confined world that you put yourself in. Instead of expressing yourselves, being more than what you are, even expressing your nudity, instead of worshiping the violence, like I said before in my card, and when I presented the card set, of celebrating the human form, the human condition in all its shapes and sizes, and nationalities, and races and creeds. Celebrating connectedness instead of being all prudish, and like from the movies of the 80s and 90s. War, or violence, was much more acceptable and celebrated than nudity. For some reason, we had to put shame on our nudity. Where that come from and why it's a thing, I don't understand it even to this day. That we need to celebrate the human condition rather than protect this, protect me, protect of this mind and me and mine, and I need to protect protect. We need to open ourselves to our vulnerabilities in order to connect with other people, to show other people that, hey, we are human beings. We're all on this planet together. We're most likely alone here in this whole universe. So why not, and celebrate the miracle to be alive and breathing. This chance to be alive and breathing. I can't not express this enough. And then you come to the trilogy of disposition. And again, it's being disposition, as I see it, it's about not minding those tranquil moments where, even if you are a little bored, of feeling that, and not saying, and not trying to wish yourself away in another, try to be at peace with yourself. Be your own best friend. Instead of wasting away watching the weather change rather than living. Don't sit in the window and watch the weather change. Go out and explore. Which is where the next song, Reflection, comes in, because it's about letting go of your ego, letting go of the things you think you know, and again, opening yourself up to other possibilities of the here and now, being in the present moment of the here and now, which I try in every way, shape, or form to be in the present moment of the here and now. When I look at this image, it so perfectly expresses the concepts and ideology of the music and of the messages of this, and that we made ourselves into mechanical beings. In some ways we're more cyborgish than we have these things, the cheaters, to see better and stuff. But this meat puppet, this meat, shell that we wear, that's not the whole being. I mean, it's what we use. It's the contact boundary between the environment and the organism. It's anything that happens at that contact boundary. That is where that's where you need to be. Is in that contact boundary. When we are separating the organism from the environment, when we have no, when we lack that contact boundary of being in the present moment of the here and now, we are not here. We are not aware of what's happening. It's like, again, here and now, in being in the present moment. There is power in that. There is beauty in that. There is peace of mind in that. And as I've always said, and this is the fourth time I want to repeat this. Never compromise your peace of mind for anything, because you will end up losing both. I cannot express that enough either. And this album is, for me personally, like I say, it has a supernatural connection to me. I don't know how, I don't know why, and I'm sure other people will probably do feel the same. If you're vibrating at that higher frequency of peace, love, and understanding, then you will connect to this album. If you don't connect with this album, it's probably because you are not vibrating at that higher positive frequency. This is my opinion, okay? Take it at face value, but this is how I truly feel. That if you're not into this album, it's probably because you're not vibrating at that higher frequency. You're probably vibrating at a lower, negative, denser frequency. And that you need to turn your channel up to accept other possibilities and to open yourself up to the universe. It's all out there for us to express ourselves and to capture that beauty of the miracle of us living creatures on this planet. And then after reflection, you get triad. Triad being their only, as far as I know, their only, technically the true definition of an instrumental that they have. Like an instrumental, you're ending the album with an instrumental that just blows me away. And I don't consider the last track being Fayip de Oad, I don't consider that being a track or a song on the album. I think of that as more of an epilogue, a reminder of the craziness that humans have, and that the craziness of our beliefs. It's basically a period at the end of the sentence of this whole beautiful album. Like the things I get from this album, and anytime I'm feeling negative or in a bad mood of any way, I just have to think of this album, and this album makes me a better man. I am a better man. I am a better person, specifically because of this album. And this album really made me not want to lie, cheat, or steal anymore. It made to take all the messages I got from even the previous albums, from Undertow's intolerance of not lying, cheating, and stealing. It really brought everything way much more into heart than ever before. I thank this album mostly for making me the person I want to be, and the person I am today. All the goodness, and when I say I am a good person, I truly mean it. And it's all because of this album. Yeah, I get a little excited with this album because it's just, I cannot express enough of the importance of it. And I urge anybody who watches these videos, and even if you're not familiar with Tool, to try to give it a chance. Really give it a chance. Let it speak to your heart. Don't overthink or overanalyze the album, because you're not going to get it. And I swear, if you're not getting into it, again, my opinion is from my perspective, subjective, It's probably because you are not vibrating at that higher frequency of love, peace, and understanding. Absolutely not. Because that is what I feel from that album. And yeah, it's my favorite album of all time. Nothing even comes close to it. That's why I was a little disappointed with 10,000 Days and Fear Inoculum, because they never reached that plateau again. For me, this is the plateau of Tool. Now, mind you, those albums, 10,000 Days and Fear Inoculum, is still better than every other band and every other album that came out at the time of those albums, and still is. I still love Tool and everything they do to the top, to the highest degree. Not like there's Tool, and then the next band would be here, and the next band would be here, and the next band would be here. It's far above anything else that has come out from any other band. Or, I mean, there are bands that do have that kind of messages and that type, but not like Tool does for me. Now, I hope I was able to do justice on this episode of Moe'S Tool Talk, because I still would love to talk about this band more and more. But yeah, this album is just, you have to explore it. You have to really look at it for what it is and not for what you want it to be. You have to have no expectations at all. Like none, zero expectations. And just let it permeate. I think another reason why people don't get into this album is because they have expectations and they want it to be Lateralus, or they want it to be the chunky heaviness of Undertow, and it's not. I mean, as much as I love Opiate, Undertow, and Anima, and they are still way up there as some of my favorite albums of all times, nothing compares to Lateralus at all. From his merging with Alex Gray, from the how I discovered that the album was coming out by seeing a little tiny poster way in the distance, and knew instantly that it was vibrating. It was like I swear, it's like everything just kind of disappeared around it, and all my focus was right onto that little pinprick. That little tiny little dot in the distance that just told me that the greatest thing is about to happen to me in my life. So that is it for this episode. I really hoped you enjoyed it, and I hope my enthusiasm and my passion for this album bleeds through the screen at you, so that everybody out there that I love people. I love everyone. I don't care where you come from or who you are. You are all beautiful, and every one of you should be cherished for the beautiful person that you are. That's why I try to be good to people. I try to do the best I can to be the best person I can, and it's all because of Tool. Go figure, eh? So, everybody, again, as always, please be safe, take care. I will see you on the flip side, and have a great day, evening, night, wherever you may be. Peace, everyone.